Yom Kippur mispater. How come you're chayav? Let's say if you share it.
Malchus. So where do we see that because we said that he's not going to be chayiv for chametz because there's a chayiv because it's tevel, and it's already prohibited because of tevel. And ein isur chalal isur. It was tevel before you baked it into chametz. So the prohibition of chametz is not chal on the item because it was already prohibited as tevel. And there's a machlokas between the Chacham and Rab Shimon. Rab Shimon says ein isur chalal isur. The Chacham says yesh isur chalal isur. Where do we see that Rab Shimon holds ein isur chalal isur? The Tanya. Ha'oichel nevel b'yom kippurim potter. You don't bring a chatas for eating on Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippurim is not chal on the Yisr Nevela. And he says even if it became a Nevela on Yom Kippur, it was already Osir Me'evim and Achai as well. So the Gemara right now is holding that when it says Ochal lo b'tevel, that if you make matzah out of tevel, that's only called Rab Shimon, who holds ein yisr chal l'isr. Avinu Omer says no. Afilu temer Rabbanon. We could say our Mishnah is Rabbanon, who holds yesh yisr chal l'isr. But here the reason is a different reason. It's not because of yisr chal l'isr. It's mishi isur mishum bal toichal chametz bilvad. Matzah can only be made out of grain that the only isser otherwise would be chametz. This chametz or this flour dough, would have an isser. It wouldn't be a unique isser of chametz bilvad. It would be chametz and tevel, and you can't make matzah out of that. However, the Gemara says midi bilvad ksivi. Doesn't say in the Torah bilvad. So the Gemara ends up saying, yes, the analysis that we did is like Rav Sheshes, who said that our Mishnah is Rav Shimon, who holds ein isur chalal isur. Torah Rabban. I might think that if a person brought grain from Tel Aviv as Meiser Sheni, and it's in Yerushalayim, that you could make matzah out of it. Talmud Lomer lechem oni, mash nechel baninus. Only bread that you can eat as an onen. An onen is someone who has lost one of his 7 family members, close family members. Until the burial, you are an onen. You're part of mitzvahs. And you're not besimcha. You're not allowed to eat meiser sheni be'aninas. So mash nechel baninas can be made into matzah because it says lechem oni. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili excludes meiser sheni from being baked into matzah. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. Rabbi Kiva or matzois riba. It says multiple times matzois to include that you can make matzah out of meiser sheni. Freik the Gemara and came out Talmud Loimer lechem oni. So for Rabbi Akiva, what does lechem oni come to teach you? Pratli isa shni lo shebeyayin v'shem udvash. To exclude for kiyum mitzvahs matzah that was kneaded, the dough was kneaded with wine, oil, or honey, which is matzah ashira, which is the opposite of lechem oni, right? So my time, Rabbi Kiva, mi ksiv lechem oni ksiv. We read it oni, but it's written oni, so the matzah that is a rich matzah is excluded. But meiser sheni, it has nothing to do with aninas. Meiser sheni you could make according to Rabbi Kiva. What does Rabbi Yossi Aglili, how does he learn? So mi karinan Oni, Oini Karinan. We don't read it Oni, even though it's written Oni, we read it Oni, which sounds like Lo Tochlu Ba'oni, which is Ba'aninas. So that's where Rabbi Yosef Levi excludes Meiser Sheni from matzah. Rabbi Kiva, I did Karinan Be'oni. Rabbi Kiva will say the reason why when the Baal Koreh lanes it, he says Oni Kiddush Shmuel. Tomar Shmuel Lechem Oni Lechem Sha'oinin Alav Dvarim Harbe. We speak over the matzah, right? On the night of the Seder, we uncover the matzah and we say Magid. That's the concept of Onin Alav. We answer over the matzah many things. That's what Lechem Oni means. It has nothing to do with that means. Period. So it came out from this baraisa that Rabbi Kiva does not allow for matzah a dough that was kneaded with wine, oil, or honey. I'll show you not so vatanya. Ein loshen isa bepesach b'yayin v'shem l'dvash. L'chadchila, you should not knead a dough on Pesach using yayin, shem, l'dvash. The imlash, if you did, Rabbi Gamliel omer tisarf miyad. Rabbi Gamliel says this causes chametz even to becomes chametz even quicker. And Rabbi Gamliel says you have to burn it therefore right away. Chacham says you can eat it because you can watch it. And therefore, Bam Rabbi Kiva, Shabti Haisa, ate some of the Ezra Rabbi Yeshua. I once was a guest by Rabbi Ezra Rabbi Yeshua. Lashni Lamisa B'Yam Yishem L'Dvash on Pesach. I needed for them dough with wine, oil, or honey. V'lam li davar. And he didn't say any problem. Aval b'shem lashin. And even though you can't knead with it, mikatvinbo, you can sort of smear on the matzah afterwards, which is asana sanakam. The chachamim es lashin bo mikatvinbo. No, that which you're allowed to knead, you can anoint. V'shem lashin bo and mikatvinbo. V'shavin shem lashin seisha b'poishrin. They all agree you can't use lukewarm water. But it's very clear from this baraisa that Rabbi Kiva allows a dough that to be kneaded with wine, oil, and honey. How come he said you can't use it for matzah? So, and for the Gemara, like kasha, abiyot of rishon, abiyot of sheni, like we learned, the mitzvah of matzah is only the first night of Pesach. Then you need lechem oni. And then the way Rabbi Kiva learned, since it's red oni, you can't have matzah shira. But the other nights of Pesach, the other days after the Laila Rishon, you want to eat matzah, you can eat matzah all the time. You don't need lechem oni on the other times. Kedol Rabbi Shua Livnei, like Rabbi Shua said to his son, Yoim Mekama lo talush li b'chalbo. On the first day of Pesach, don't knead the matzah with milk. Afterwards, you can use milk. So the Gemara jumps on this right away. You can never make a milchdik dough all year because we're concerned about basar b'chalav. So what do you mean he told them to make a matzah with milk? You didn't understand. It didn't mean milk, he meant honey. After that, you can make honey matzahs because it's not, we're not being makayim the mitzvahs of matzah after the first night of Pesach. You could make lechem out of milk. Meaning, if you make them kein Torah, there's a machlokas how to explain kein Torah. We have this in the Tzur Rabbanon. Some hold kein Torah means very small, like little balls, which you eat right away. You don't leave them over. And therefore, you're never going to have a problem eating it with meat. It's only, you make bread, you leave it over, then you don't know what it is. So that's one pshat kein. The other pshat kein Torah means it's made triangularly. It has a certain simon and that kind of bread. Like, for example, the bakeries used to carry, milchdik bread for Shavuos, but they were in a different shape, like a triangle. Now Shulchan Aruch brings that if you make it with a certain a simon that you can hecker, and that's an exception.
Are you allowed to make bread with oil, fleishik oil? Could you use that as a base just for covering like the pan? Are you allowed to make bread?
No, you can't make bread fleishik either. Just like you can't make bread milk, you can't make it fleishik either. For the same reasons.
Oh.
It's the same simon in Shulchan Aruch. The shavin she'en loshin es ha'isa b'poishrin. The Brisa mentioned that you may not use lukewarm water because that causes chametz. It speeds up the leavening process. Why is that different from menachos? It's not called menachos neloshis b'poishrin. But mishtam and shloich, you have to watch it. Now remember, menachos also have to be matzah. You can't make a mincha ad chametz. So how come over there we do it with lukewarm water, and you just watch it carefully so it doesn't become leaven? How come we can't watch it on Pesach? And for the Gemara, imamru bezrizin, kohanim in the Beis Hamikdash are zrizin. So there you can have a heter by menachos. Yomru b'shein zrizin. So by regular people making matzah at home, they're not zariz. So we're worried that it's going to become chametz. Yachi milsus nami losses. Okay, so why don't we allow then soaking the wheat kernels in water? That made it that the flour should be very white. So if this is correct, that in the Beis Hamikdash they were zariz, they should allow soaking these wheat kernels, right? But Allah manav zeiran arbevim Shmuel chidin shamanachos ein loisasinoisa. That the kernels of wheat that you make for a mincha, you're not allowed to soak them. Well, why not? If they're zaris, it also shouldn't be a problem. So the Gemara says, Lisha, when they made the dough, that was actually done in the Beis Hamikdash. Bizris and Isa, that was made with Kohanim. But Lasisa, before the dough was brought to the Beis Hamikdash at home, and the flour was brought, that Lasisa process was done at home, lesser Bizris. Freit Gemara v'lisha miyasa bizrisa. But what do you mean? The kneading of the dough is also not done necessarily by the Kohanim. V'aksiv. It says v'yatzak alei shemen. You shall anoint the dough by a mincha with oil. V'yala kohen. Then bring it to a kohen. To teach me mikmitza ve'elech mitzvahs kuhuna. After you are mekadesh the mincha, the flour and the oil in the klishores, the kohen does a kmitza. He takes with his hand and smooths it out, and then throws the kmitza into another kli, and then that he does zrika. So kmitza and on requires kunalim and al yitzikum lilish kshem b'cholado. But the anointing, the kneading of the dough can be done by a non-kohen. So your answer before that allowed poishrin because there was reason doing the kneading, well, it's not so, because it can be done by non-kohen. And for the Gemara, Lisha need the bizrizin lessa, bimkom zrizin issa. The kneading wasn't done necessarily by the kohen, but it was done in the azara. And therefore, at the place where zrizin are, and therefore they're careful about halacha. Domer mar blilik sher bizar, but chutz l'choymes azar psula. But outside of the azar, it was possible. La fuke l'sisa the ena bizrizin v'lo b'mokum zrizin. So the soaking of those wheat kernels, it wasn't done by kohanim, and it wasn't done in the place of kohanim. That's why by menachos they did not allow soaking of the wheat kernels. Freit the Gemara ma'ishtam mincha sa'omer. The Tanya mincha sa'omer loises in oisav. It's soivin oisav. Now, the mincha sa'omer was a korban that was brought by Klal Yisrael as a korban sibur on the second day of Pesach, on the 16th day of Nisan, to permit the consumption of Chodesh. And the Gemara said it's a mincha, yet they soak the kernels. How could they do that? You told me before you can't soak a mincha. And for the Gemara, Tzibur shiny, since the Korban Oimer is a Korban Tzibur, all the other menachas we were talking about are private minchas, could be brought by private individuals. That's what we were talking about before. But since the minchas Oimer is a minchas Korban Tzibur, that was done by Bezdin. Bezdin overseed it, so it's considered zrizin. Torah. So bikurim are the first fruits that were also brought up to the Beis HaMikdash after Shavuos, between Shavuos and Sukkot. Actually, you could bring it between Shavuos and Chanukah, but after Sukkot, you couldn't do the Kriya. You couldn't do the Vidui Bikurim. You could do the Vidui Bikurim if you brought it up between Shavuos and Sukkot. The Bikurim were given to Kohanim to eat, like Truma. So I might think if you gave Bikurim to the Kohen, he could make matzah out of it. You eat matzahs in all the places you live. Matzah nechelas b'chol moshvosechem. Yatsu bikurim she'nechol b'chol moshvosechem of Yerushalayim. Bikurim can only be eaten in Yerushalayim, and are not eaten b'chol moshvosechem. So therefore, it doesn't fulfill the geder of being able to use it for matzah. Rabbi Kiva Omer matzah umor. He learns a different limud. It says matzois al matzois umrorim yochluhu. You shall eat the korban pesach with matzah and moror. So there's a hekesh, sort of a connection, an equation between matzah and moror. So umah moror she'eno bikurim. The bikurim are only brought from the sheva aminim, right? Chita, Saora, right? Gefen, Te'ena, Virimon, Zayt Shemen, Udvash, right? Tmorim. Only the 7 fruit. Now, Moror is not one of those seven, doesn't come from one of those 7 species. So, Mamor, Sheni Bikurim, Af Matzah, Sheni Bikurim. So the Hekesh is, that's how Rabbi Kiva learns. He doesn't learn from B'chol Moshvosechem. He learns from the connection to Moror. That just like Moror cannot be brought from Bikurim, so Matzah cannot be brought from Bikurim. Maybe Chita and Saora, which are maybe you can't use Chita, any kind of wheat, because since that's a min of Bikurim, it can't be used to make Matzah. Right? Maybe Otzi Chita and Saora Shesh min of Bikurim. Talmud Lemer Matzah is Riba. So Eina Chanami. If it wasn't for the pasuk matzahs, we wouldn't be able to eat matzah from chita so'er, but we can because of matzahs. Matzahs riba filu bikurim nami. So let the matzah include bikurim. So Hadar Bei Rabbi Kiva. In fact, Rabbi Kiva went back, changed his mind, and does not learn that the exclusion of making matzah from bikurim comes from the hekesh between matzah and moror. He learns it from the same place that the Tanna Kama learned, which is B'chol Moshvosechem. That's what the Gemara is going to say now, and the Gemara is going to prove it to us. The Tanya. Yachol Yetzer Nechavasu B'Bikurim. I might think that the Kohen can make matzah from the Bikurim that was given to him. Talmud Leimer B'chol Moshvosechem Tochlu Matzahs. Matzah Nechel B'chol Moshavos. It's got to be matzah that can be eaten anywhere. Yatzu Bikurim Shenachel B'chol Moshavos El Yerushalayim. So Bikurim doesn't meet the criteria because it can only be in Yerushalayim. Yachol Shani Moitzi Af Meiser Sheni. Some of you may have been thinking, well, what about Meiser Sheni? Also can only be in Yerushalayim. How come that qualifies, right? Talmud Lemer Matzah is Riba. So the Matzah Riboy comes to allow us to use Meiser Sheni dough for matzah. Freit Gemara Marayisa. What logical reason do you have l'rabos ma'aser sheni to be kurim? I mean, why should you include ma'aser sheni and reject bikurim? So the Gemara has a reason. Marbani ma'aser sheni sheyesh lo heter b'chol moshavos ki Rabbi Eliezer. There are times when you can eat ma'aser sheni everywhere. We're going to see if ma'aser sheni becomes tameh in Yerushalayim, you can redeem it, and then you can take the ma'aser sheni produce and take it anywhere, even and eat it in Tel Aviv. Therefore, since there is an opportunity, ma'aser sheni everywhere, it fills this criteria. Dam Rabbi Elazar, minay ma'aser sheni shenit ma'ashapornos afilu b'Yerushalayim. How do I know that ma'aser sheni became tameh? You can redeem it, and then even if it was in Yerushalayim, you can redeem it, then you can take it elsewhere. Talmud Lemar, ki lo suchal says so. You can't schlep it, you can't eat it. Name says lachila. Shnemar, by this week's parsha, when Yosef brings the brother, or in B case, when he brings the brothers to eat with him, he says, "Vayisam masos meis panah." The man Shabbos said, "Ma'aser sheni nafik bei." So who is the one that we know that you could be Yotzei matzah ma'aser sheni? Rabbi Kiva. And he rejected it from the pasuk. So shmami no other day. So we see he went back from his svara that to reject ma'aser sheni because of the hekesh between matzah and maror. Rabbi Yosei Aglili tepukle milechem oni. Rabbi Yosei Aglili rejects ma'aser because of lechamoni. Mish nechal ba'oni yatzeh shei nechal ala b'simcha. Because ma'aser sheni has to be eaten b'simcha, not in the status of animus. Sover leik Rab Shimon. The Tanya bikurin asurin la'onei. Right? That bikurim are asur for nonin, but Rab Shimon matir. But Rab Shimon allows an onen to eat bikurim. My time rabbanon. D'chsiv lo suchal lechol bisharecha. You can't eat it in any place. There's a hekesh between bikurim and meiser. Ma meiser asur la'onein, because it says lo achalti ba'oni. Af bikurim asur la'onein. How come Rab Shimon allows bikurim to an onein? Truma karin rachmana ketruma. So since the drasha of trumas yadecha refers to bikurim, but the Torah used the word truma in its description of bikurim, so he makes a limud. Ketruma, ma truma muteris la'onen. A truma can be eaten by a kohen as an onen. Af bikurim muter la'onen. Rab Shimon need the hekesh Leslie, fine. He doesn't have the hekesh, but simcha miyah miksev ksivu. But how can an onen eat it? Because he's not the simcha. The sleeve is samachta b'chol hatov. And when you eat bikurim, you're supposed to have simcha. So the Gemara says no. That hahul is man simcha huda asa. That doesn't necessarily mean your personal attitude. Are you b'simcha or not? It defined when do you bring bikurim. This not me'atzeres v'ad echad maybe v'korei. Like we said, the first time you can bring bikurim is Shavuos. That's why it's called Chag HaBikurim. Because one of the names of Shavuos is Chag HaBikurim, because that's when you start bringing bikurim. And you could bring bikurim all the way to Sukkot. And you could be Mevi and Korei. And you would read the Parsha, Arami Oved Avi, right? And Rashi says, "Meviim bikurim koren latzer sheshtei alechem shlatzer matir mavas bikurim." Remember, we said on the second day of Pesach, we bring the minchas ha'omer, which is a mincha made out of barley. Then we count 49 days spheres ha'omer. Then we bring a mincha chadasha, which is the shtei alechem on Shavuos. We bring 2 loaves. They have to be made out of wheat. There's a journey we go through from the first day of the Omer where we don't have any midos, and we count 49 days, sphira, hod shabahod, netzach shabahod. We're supposed to refine our character. So finally, we're like human beings. Like barley is animal food. That's why the Minchas Omer is brought from barley, animal food, because we're on the status of an animal. We came out of Mitzrayim, yes, but we didn't have mitzvahs, and we didn't have the good attributes. So the 49 days we count the Sfira, finally we get up to Shavuos, then we bring the Shtel Lechem, which is made out of wheat, which is human food. We become human beings. And the Shtel Lechem now allow you to bring Bikurim. When it says, Uviyoma Bikurim B'hakrivchem in Chacharashal Hashem. And up from Shavuos to Sukkot is a harvest time, which Rashi says, Shabtach Hazman Azez Zman Lakita. The Samech B'Masav, the person's happy at that time. But from Chag until Chanukah is not Zman Simcha. You're not Koirei, because it's not the time of Simcha. And from Chanukah on, you can't bring. Because it says, Asher Tavi Me'artzacha, reading Rashi, Kozman Shemitzun Al Pnei Artzacha, Shloikanu L'chaim Nasadeh. As long as there's fruit and vegetables in the field for wild animals to eat, you can bring. And that's, the Gemara learns all the way to Chanukah that exists. But beyond Chanukah, it's not there anymore, so you can't bring at all. You can't bring. Torah Banon, Lechem Oni, Prat Lechalut B'lash, it has to be poor bread, but Chalut and Ashisha, Chalut means scalded bread, where when you scald it, it becomes white, and Ashisha is its very large loaf. So you can't make your matzahs like that. Well, maybe Yachol Yetze Adam Yechvasol b'Pasadra. Pasadra is like Kimmelbräu, like whole grain, which was considered inferior. Even though today whole grain bread is eaten because it's considered healthy, it's more fiber, but it wasn't considered quality bread then. So maybe your matzah has to be made like that. Talmud Lamer matzah, it's matzah sriba. Means you could be even very nice. Even matzah shloim melech would make fine flour. Well, then im came matam lechamoni. So what do you learn from lechamoni? Prat lecholit lashisha. So it excludes this scalded type of flour. I guess where they would scald the flour, or they would make it into a very nice, important loaf. Umay mashma da'ay ashisha lisha b'chashivusa. Where do you see the word ashisha means it's a chashav loaf? So when David HaMelech in Sefer Shmuel, Meretz Hashem, we will learn this soon in the Navi Shir, when he brought the Aron to Yerushalayim, they celebrate. They distributed to every man and woman. They gave everybody a beautiful loaf and a good shtick flesh, good piece of meat. 1/6 of the whole cow. And Ashisha is echad meshisha be'efa, 1/6 of an ephah, which is it's like a 10-pound loaf. Upliga de Shmuel. But this is in contradiction to Shmuel. Shmuel Ashisha is garba de chabra. That means David gave everybody a barrel of wine. Because in the Navi Hosea, the word ashishe refers to grapes. So there's a machlokas whether ashisha means a big loaf or whether it means a barrel of wine. Okay, so tomorrow we'll